So this one's a little bit complicated. Like, first thing is we should try to figure out, like, maybe we can draw a diagram or something. So you have your mega triathlon, and the idea is like, you have 3 sections to it, right? So you have the running part, and then you have the biking part, and then you have the swimming part. Honestly, like, the order of them doesn't matter. Like, there's nothing in the question that cares about the order, so we're just gonna do them separately in this order. So what we first want to know is, like, what are the lengths of each of these sections? Well, what we know, the total length is 200 kilometers. So the entire thing is 200 kilometers. And the swimming part is 40 kilometers. Right? And then we also know the rates of how fast each of the sections are run. Right? So I'm just pasting down what information we have right now. So running is at 22 kilometers per hour. Biking is 50. And then swimming is 80. So like right now we can't actually figure anything out. With just this amount of information, we can't solve anything. So the last part of the question that is really important is the amount of time that's needed to run the running and the biking are both integers. So now we have to figure out the time, right? So like, what's the time? So I'm just gonna split it into variables. So like, let's say R is the time run. R is like the time spent running. And then P is the time spent biking. And then, well, these are really the only ones we need. Okay, so does anyone know the formula for how you solve for distance given a rate and a time?
Yeah.
What is it?
Rate times time equals distance.
Exactly, so like,
Or
maybe that doesn't make sense, like if you look at it at first, like does that sound familiar to anybody here? Yeah, rate times time equals distance. Basically, if like I'm running at like a, so in this question,
miles per hour.
if I'm running at 22 kilometers per hour, it makes sense if like I run for an hour, then I would run 22 kilometers, right? If I run for 2 hours, I would run for 44, right? 2 times 22. So if I multiply the amount of our rate times the amount of time we spent running, we'll get how long we're running for. So we're doing rate times time for our running, and we're also going to do rate. We're also going to do our rate times time for our biking. So this one is. So then what's the distance of the track ran and the track biked? Well, we know that the entire track is 200 kilometers and the pool itself is only 40. So the remainder is 200 minus 40, which is 160. Okay, so now this is where we use the fact that R and B are both integers. Because if they weren't integers, there'd be an infinite number of solutions here. And they're also positive, obviously. So, I mean, like the first thing is like 50 is a pretty big number, so we just try different numbers for the time spent biking. The first one we might want to try is 1 hour, right? Let's say we spent 1 hour biking. So maybe you make up a list. So this is your value of biking, or this is how many hours you spent biking, and this is how many hours you would spend as a result running. So if B was 1, then how do I make this one? I guess I could just write this. You see what I did here? Maybe I should write this out a bit more. So we use our formula 22R plus 50B equals 160. So B was 1, then we would have 50. We subtract 50 from both sides. We go 22r is equal to 110. So then we divide both sides by 22, and you get r equals 5. If you just do the calculation, right? So this is an integer. This is great, right? So we already have our solution because I made it to be easy. But like, you should probably check the other possibilities just in case, like maybe, I don't know, maybe there's another solution, and maybe the question actually expected you to give both of them. So what are other values of b? I mean, b could be 2. We're gonna just keep it. So then you have 22r plus 100 is equal to 160. 22r is equal to 60, and then r is equal to 60 over 22. This is not an integer, right? And then the last one you have to check is b equals 3. I'll just do it. I'll just do it quickly. Basically, you get something that looks like r is 10 over 22.
Quick math.
This is obviously not an integer. So yeah, so our solution is, so we know that the amount of time spent running is 5 hours, and the amount of time spent biking is 1 hour. So now all that remains is to find the amount of time spent swimming, which is, well, they swam for 40 kilometers, right? And then the rate of swimming was 8 kilometers per hour. Kilometers per hour. Which gives you 5 hours. So then if you take the sum of all of the things that we figured out, you get, I'll just write it. 1 plus 5 plus 5, which is 11. Does that make sense? Any questions here? Or is that
Teach. Yeah, I'm going to correct everything. We have anything wrong.
right? Right, this next one's a little bit